Hey y'all, welcome to Art of the Budget. My name's Nicole, my pronouns are she and her, and I live in the Pacific Northwest on what is the traditional territory of the Coast Salish Nations. I'm an artist and educator currently learning about budgeting, saving, and planning for the future and sharing what I learn along the way as I bumble my way through. I got a question in the comments from Andy, which by the way, thanks for watching, Andy, who's another ceramic artist, so yay. About how I use every dollar. So there are tons of videos that are like tutorials, and I'm sure they're like way better than anything I'm going to share with you. But I have, however, always enjoyed, and this is why I do my update videos, seeing other people use every dollar. And that's certainly how I've learned how to use it. So I wanted to just share with you all my process that I do every month with every dollar. And I thought I would just share sort of like what I like, and why I do what I do. And I would love any comments you have to, help me out if you think you know a better way to do something, to do what I want to do. Let me know. Hey, that's Violet. Please let me know down below. And in any case, I'm just going to share how I use every dollar. So we're in September right now. You're seeing a lot of red. That is true. But I am going to go forward. So I'm going to show you setting up a new budget, the way that I do it. Before I do that, though, I wanted to say I use the free version. There is a way to have your bank account attached. So if you see here, save time and connect to your bank instead. There's a little dollar sign next to that. I definitely know it works really well for some people. For me, though, I found it a little clunky. Like sometimes I want to like shoot this update video and I can't because like the information from the bank wasn't there yet. I tried it. I did the free month. And there are a few other things, like sometimes transactions would come through twice. And so for me, I just like the sort of ritual of entering all of my transactions in. So I use the free version. I've got some notes on my phone, so I'm just kind of peeking at it. I like every dollar because it's really easy to learn. It's like pretty straightforward to use. I've tried out YNAB and I found it really difficult, and I really want to learn. I know maybe it's a little more sophisticated. That might not be true, but it seems like there's a little more finessing you can do, but I found it really hard to kind of understand. Every dollar, so that's a positive for me. Every dollar is a monthly budget. And that works for me because I get paid the same amount every month. And I also pay for things with credit cards and then pay them off at the end of the month. So it's no problem for me to have transactions sort of coming through anytime. I also have another system where I just make sure that things are coming out in terms of what time they're coming out, that they're not, overdrafting or whatever, which I'll share sometime. But for me, every dollar, the monthly aspect is fine. I realize that's a little more difficult for other people, although I've seen people with variable incomes and, bi-monthly or every 2-week pay periods use it. I get paid bi-monthly, but so I like that. It can be a little confusing though. I found at first when I was budgeting more to the paycheck that it could be a little confusing for that. I like that you can keep funds. So here's my sinking funds. I've been really bad at filling them up, but in theory, you can, have money that you allocate, and if you don't use it, like in the cap fund, I didn't allocate any money, but this past money is still sitting there, and it keeps track of it. So I like that there's funds like that. Maybe a more exciting one would be to look at my emergency fund. So even though I haven't allocated any money the last couple of months, it's constantly keeping track. And one thing that I don't like is that this is actually not always perfectly correct. Like right now, I actually need to check. I don't know if that's perfectly correct, but I need to work on that. So sometimes, I don't know if it's the program or if it's my bookkeeping, but sometimes this number isn't totally correct. So that's something that I don't love about it. I love that I can plan out my every dollar budget. Let's just go really quickly to October. I think it's basically, it's not quite done yet, but basically I plan an every dollar budget And then, as y'all know, I put in my transactions. So I'm going to show you how I do that really quick. So when I have a new transaction, I go either here on my phone to add transaction. And oops, here is add new. So then I add the transaction here, and I'll just add a sort of fake transaction. So $1 fake. And I don't give it a budget. I don't use a budget item. I don't put it in a category. I just say add new expense, and that shows up here. And it shows that I have one transaction. And that is mostly so that I can do this video at the end of the month, at the end of the week, and show y'all what I've done and keep track of it on a weekly basis. Now, there is absolutely a way, for example, if I go into my income, into my budget category, inside that category, you can see it says full-time job here. I can add a transaction, and that will add it directly into, I'm not sure if it will, I'm just going to change this to October. That timing bit is a little weird. It will add that directly into the category. So that's another way to use it, which is really useful. I just like to do the category out here so that I can basically shoot a video about each thing. So I'm going to delete this transaction. And I'm also going to delete this transaction. Okay, so those are things I like about it. That's how I enter my transaction. I like that I can plan everything, and then as I enter each transaction into a category, I can see what's been received or what is left or what I've spent. So I do really like that. And if you just click here, it toggles between spent and remaining, or I can go up here and I can change it. So I really enjoy that. Also, each category, you can really personalize it. So for income, I mean, these are all mostly all my category names that I've given them, but they're all within this section of income. And then you can move these things around. So you can actually pick them up over here and move them around. And so over time, I'm gonna seriously do this November video where I compare my beginning, my November budget. That's when I really first started really using EveryDollar, and my November 2018 budget where I really first started using EveryDollar, and my November 2019 budget. But they've changed a lot, and as you can see, giving and saving is up here really high, right under income, and it used to be down at the bottom. So I've really adjusted it to fit in retirement, what's really important to me. And then, you know, debt's way down here. And then sinking funds are important, but they're like sort of ancillary. So I like that you can personalize it, move things around. You can move things within the category, I think. Yeah. And you can move things. You can actually move the whole category. All right. Yikes. What did I just do? It's okay. I'll fix it later. Okay. So yeah. Oh, the last thing that I really like is this. Wait, I gotta move myself here. This part right here, you can see what I spend in each category. And like, I could have retirement underneath savings. I choose to make those two different categories because of the way I'm saving right now, but in the future, those might be the same category. You know, at a certain point, most of my savings is going to be going to retirement. But I just add those two up. This month isn't the greatest, but some months that's a huge that's even maybe a majority of my budget. But I love that I can see the percentages here. Housing and daily living, maybe those sort of go together, but I can see that I'm spending about 23% of my budget on housing. And you know that for me includes phone and internet as well. So that's pretty good, I think. 23% of my net income per month is for housing. I love this little feature right here, and you can kind of see like how much you're sending there. Okay, so finally, I'm going to talk real quick about my method. So what I actually do. So normally I don't plan super far in advance, but this year I got really amped up and I planned the rest of the quarter. Let's see. I'm going to go to, so I planned the rest of the quarter and then I planned January to see what it would look like with like one of my debt payments gone and stuff like that. So normally I don't plan that far in advance. I normally plan about a month in advance. I do personally have a budget for the whole year on a spreadsheet that I create at the beginning of each year. I don't know if I've ever really talked about it, but I have it. So I have a general idea of what my budget's going to be like, and then I do the month-to-month one in everydollar. So when the month I'm in is starting, then I'll open up usually the next month. This isn't like a hard or fast rule. Obviously, I've done through January at this point, but I try not to do it too far in advance for this reason, though, because if I go to February, looks like you need a budget for February. We'll copy January's budget to get you started. Now, if I make any major changes between like now in January, like for example, my student loan payment is about to change because I just recertified my income. So that might not carry over. And so normally that's why I don't go too far ahead. But I've been being pretty careful and making sure any changes I make, I then redo the budget for the following month, just because I was projecting out. So I'll click Start Planning for February, and it's just going to copy January's budget. And then I just go down line by line. And this is pretty early in the previous month. So for February, this will be like early January. I'll kind of go down line by line and think of anything that might be coming up for February. Like my birthday's in February. So maybe I could like plan on some gift money, or I probably wouldn't plan on it, but you know, I might think, oh, maybe I'm gonna go do something fun for myself and have like a personal alone day for my birthday. And so I might plan some funds for that. But anyway, I basically go through and just see, is there anything that I need to think about for that month that's different? You know, maybe it's my housemate, you know, finishing college and moving out, like maybe I have to pay more rent that month. I don't know. I just go down the line. I'm also kind of thinking like, okay, in February, for example, I know that March I have travel coming up. And so I will make sure that I'm putting money into this account because I know I have travel coming up. So I will be planning ahead for it. So I'll probably be planning ahead before that even. But for sure in February, I'll be planning for March travel. I travel every year in March. I'm not sure what this line is. Every once in a while, if you go from here and you tab, it'll make a new item sometimes. So anyway, I'm just going to delete that. So just to show you, if I have this extra item, I just click over here where I could also move it, right? But I click over there and this little trash can shows up. And then yes, delete. Okay, so that's the main thing that I do. I plan out my budget until it's an every dollar budget. And I'm going to go back to October for this. I'm just going to say that I'm going to make 5,004.92, just so that will be an every dollar budget. So I've made my every dollar budget. I will then go throughout the month, record my transactions weekly, move them over here. I do actually try to stay under budget, although this September does not seem like it. And then at the end of the month, I will go through and I will reconcile. And so I always do a video for that. If you want to see that in action, go watch one of those videos. But essentially, planned, oh here, let's go to September. Hopefully this moving around to different months isn't too confusing. I'm just trying to show better examples. So like, let's go down here to daily living. So this is what I planned. This is what I actually spent. I will go through and record what my planned numbers were. I usually do that on my notebook, but I sometimes do it in a Google Sheet. This is just for me to just know what kind of difference there was. So I'll record my planned number. And then to reconcile, I'll go through and I will change my planned number. So I'll highlight it and then I'll put in what I actually spent so that it's reconciled. Of course, if I've spent more money than I made, it will no longer be in every budget, and then I will have to figure out what to do about it. And again, if you watch like my last video, I was not at an every dollar budget at the end of August, so that would be a really good example of seeing what I do. And then I'm just looking at my notes really quick. I always reconcile the budget completely. So if it means I have to take something out of my emergency fund, whatever it is, I always leave the month with an every dollar. And so I'm going to go back to August, and it's an every dollar budget. And that is because I had to take some funds out of my emergency fund to make it balance. And so that's what I did. Funds from emergency fund in as miscellaneous income. And then I also did a transaction to remove them from my emergency fund. I actually might not have done that, so I'm going to go back and do it. But that is what I do. I never leave a month unreconciled. Okay, so I think that's basically, I'm just looking at my notes to see if I missed anything. That is basically how I use every dollar. Okay, so that's how I use every dollar. Feel free to leave me tips down below, leave me questions down below. Let me know what you think, and let me know what your preferred way of doing your monthly budget is. Is it a program at all? Is it paper? Is it a spreadsheet?